second. Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to ask a few questions, okay?
Okay, that'll work.
Okay. Are you going to put some? Okay. Oh, my name is Maximus.
Mm-hmm.
And my topic for my passion project is a steam locomotive.
Okay.
This is the first question. What is a steam engine and how is it different from other engines?
Okay. So, locomotives come in various types. Steam locomotives, electric locomotives, diesel locomotives, and then a combination of those kinds of things. So the first locomotive was a steam locomotive developed in England in the 1800s. And they used wood at that time to basically make a fire that would boil water, capture the steam, and then use the steam to push on a, what we'll call a piston or a rod that would make a wheel turn. And that's how the steam locomotive would move.
Okay. Oh, the next question. Wait a minute. This is the second question. How did the inventor of the steam locomotive know the steam could be a good source of power for a locomotive?
Well, they didn't call it a locomotive at that time. It was essentially a wagon, like a regular wagon that was drawn by horses. Only someone decided that, we could use a motor of some type to do the same work. And the motor could have been driven by electricity at the time, but the problem, of course, is how do you run the cord that far? So they decided to use steam, because steam was also used in manufacturing to turn motors to make products. So the steam locomotive was essentially a mobile steam-driven item that used the same thing that they had been using in factories.
Yeah. So the steamboats used to be powered by steam, so they thought the people who were going to invent the train thought they could use the power of steamboats and other steam-powered vehicles for something that could go on land.
Yep.
Okay. This is one question. How can you put oil into the firebox of an oil-burning steam locomotive?
Well, so what's the answer to that question is, what is it that the firebox does?
Okay.
I'm asking you a question. What does the firebox do on a locomotive?
So it burns the fuel. So the heat and water can make steam, and the steam that powers the locomotive, and the burning from the heat goes to the smokestack.
Exactly. Well, the exhaust goes to the smokestack. The steam powers, again, pushes on a cylinder that's got a piston in it, and the pressure pushes the piston, which is attached to a piece of steel or a piece of metal that's called the arm, and the arm attaches to the wheel, and that's how it moves. But the other part of your answer, right, is that a steam locomotive, or a locomotive in general, needs some way to heat the water to make steam. And so we started with wood because forests were plentiful. Then they discovered that in the United States, coal actually was a better thing to put into the firebox than wood. And we were also starting to chop up a lot of our forests. And then when we got out west, where coal was not as plentiful as it is in Virginia and places like that, they said, how about oil? We can use that essentially to make the heat to heat up the steam and do the same thing.
Okay, let's see. Question number 4. How does water from the tender travel to the locomotive?
Pipes, that's easy.
Okay, let's see.
As a matter of fact, if you think about a tender, one of the things you will notice is that the tender actually is more water than wood or coal, because water has to essentially evaporate, and you use much more of that in the conversion process than you used wood or coal.
Okay. So, this is one question I've always wondered. How do you start a fire for the firebox of a locomotive?
How do you start a barbecue?
You start with gas, right? You start it with gas.
Or you started with something that allows you to get the coals started, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be gas. You can use anything that will essentially light it up. The difficulty,
like oil or wood.
You can use that, but do you use oil to start the coals in your barbecue? How do you start the coals in your barbecue?
I've never done a barbecue before.
Okay. Well, ask your dad how to start coals in a barbecue, and he will tell you. You can use light. You can use matches. You can use paper. Right? There are lots of different ways to do it. You can also use charcoal starter, which is where you're getting that oil idea from. But there's lots of ways to do that. The problem you run into, which is what the railroads up north ran into also, is that it can be below zero. And then trying to get coals or anything to heat up can be very difficult.
Okay. Wait a minute. What's question number? Whoa! Sorry. Let's see. Now we have the last question.
Okay.
How does steam power the piston for a locomotive? How does the steam power the piston? It makes the rods move.
So the steam is under pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I do is I have a pipes that go between the boiler and the piston, and I force that into the cylinder, and the cylinder then it can't expand, so it pushes against whatever it is that can be moved, and the thing that can be moved is the piston.
Okay. And now one little follow-up question. Have you ever driven a steam locomotive in your life before?
Nope, I've only driven an electric.
Well, that does sound pretty interesting and cool. Thank you for letting me know your questions. Have a good day. Bye.
Okay, bye, Matt.